When you think of Beavis and Butthead, you probably think of two things, right? Crude jokes and a whole lot of head banging. Would. It was just dumb, hilarious show from the 90s. But I'm going to argue that underneath all that, there's something way, way darker going on. Something that is actually brilliant and a pretty bleak social satire from Mike Judge. I mean, this is it. This is the show that we remember. This is the stuff that made us laugh. It's simple. It's juvenile. And you gotta admit, it's pretty memorable. But you have to ask yourself, is that really all it is? Is the entire legacy of this iconic show just a bunch of dumb, silly jokes? Or is there something much more deep and honestly disturbing hiding right there in plain sight? Here's the thing. Beavis and Butthead, not only is it a comedy, but when you peel back the layers, it's a tragedy. It's satirical mirror to a society that lets its kids fall through every single crack and then has the nerve to laugh at them when they hit rock bottom. All right, so let's get into it. The whole story, well, the whole tragedy, really starts at the absolute root of the problem. These kids have no parents that we know of. They are completely and totally alone. And this effectively makes them a modern day version of feral children. Think about it. They've been abandoned. I mean, yeah, they live in a house, but no one's there. There's no guidance, zero guidance. Nobody's ever home, only them. There's no one there to teach them any basic hygiene or empathy or even the simple difference between right and wrong. So, what fills this massive void? The TV, the almighty TV, becomes their only parent, their only teacher, their only moral compass. Every single social cue, every value, every idea of how the world's supposed to work, it all gets filtered through this, TV, through this box. They watch heavy metal music videos, late night television, and anything they catch on TV. This void, well, it crashes headfirst into the one institution that's supposed to be a safety net for kids like this, right? So, first, you got the well meaning but totally useless idealism, sort of like a dreamer, Mr. Van Driesen. Then there's the screaming rage of Coach Buzzcut. And finally, you have the completely burned out Principal McVicker, who is traumatized by the boy's idiocy. So, you got three characters that represent liberalism, authoritarianism, and bureaucracy. Three totally different philosophies, all leading to the same exact results. Absolutely nothing helpful for Beavis and Butthead. But here it is. Here's the single most damning failure in the entire show. Not one of these adults, Van Driesen, Buzzcut, McVicker, none of these so-called educators ever picks up the phone, ever calls, child services, because they're looking at a textbook example, an open and shut case of severe child neglect every single day in school. And of course, this system, this institution that's supposed to protect them, it doesn't just fail. It doesn't even seem to notice that these problems exist in these kids, right? So they fall through the cracks every single day. And look, this indifference, this blindness, it's not just locked inside the walls of Highland High School. It's everywhere. And the entire community that, Beavis and Butthead live in and they interact with. So another example, in their own neighborhood, their neighbor, Tom Anderson, the guy who kind of looks like an old Hank Hill, sounds like an old Hank Hill, he doesn't even see the crisis next door. He just sees a nuisance, these two boys. Also, their boss at Burger World, their manager, he doesn't see kids that need help. He just sees two disposable knuckleheads in his fast food restaurant. They're always treated like they're a finished product, like they're idiots. They're just idiots. When the reality is that they are walking, talking symptoms of a catastrophic failure of care. So, this is where we get the real satirical genius from Mike Judge. Mike Judge gets us to, giggle, laugh, snicker. But the thing is, there's a twist. The joke isn't actually on Beavis and Butthead. The joke is on the world, society, institutions, adults, the people closest to us, whether it's by family or proximity. Because when you strip it all down, Beavis and Butthead themselves, they aren't the problem being satirized here. Of course, their idiocy, their destructiveness, their apathy towards anything, that's not the cause of anything. They are a symptom. They are a perfectly and frankly horrifying reflection of the world that created them. A world with no parents, a school system that's both incompetent and totally indifferent to them, and of course a community that would much rather complain about problem kids than ever stop to ask, hey, how did they get this way? They are the logical conclusion of a society that has failed them on every single level. Or, it's not that deep, bruh.